All right, Weirdness Week. Thanks for joining me here. We're going to cover a few things about some stock scans and also what's Weirdness Week. Well, the Kentucky Derby, a historic move from a winner from a disqualifying situation, first time in history. Magic Johnson resigns over an email scandal, I guess you want to call it, that directed at him. And so that was kind of an interesting situation. Then what else did we have? Well, North Korea blops over a missile. We're supposed to be toning him down a bit, right? Kim Jong didn't really adhere to saying, well, let's really work at peace. And then finally, President Trump tweeting about imposing that by Friday, a 25% increase on tariffs and implementing that program. I mean, that was what really caused the market to go down before. It's literally the opposite of if someone's telling me everything's running smoothly, we got a great deal coming, and it's a great deal, and everyone's selling me that great deal, and Christine Lagarde from the IMF and everyone's saying, yep, this deal is going to go down. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, if everyone thinks this deal's going down, maybe it won't, right? I mean, you don't want to see that, but I think eventually something's going to go down. And even if we stay status quo for the next year, I mean, that's still fairly positive for this momentum we have in our economy. I just don't know how the market's going to react to it when we see the Globex futures opens. I know in the spot Forex, and then also in a little hint, if you guys look at how the markets in other areas of the world are doing, like Australia and Israel, and you see how their markets open on Sunday, you might get a good indication of people getting ahead of things. And it's not really a disaster at this point in time, but we're more likely to see the market feed on itself, and it depends on how much elaboration we get. If, let's say, everything's kind of neutral, where did we leave this market? Are we going to see the crash and burn? Is the stock market going to zero? And quite frankly, I just don't have those technical indicators to dictate that quite yet. Our trading with the person's algo optimizer, and just to give you a couple things, these are some of my trade programs that I put up for based off the algo optimizer program we created. The bonds, a 60-minute, I want to go over because I haven't talked about bonds in a while. I mean, while the stock market had its jitter with Jerome Powell, it really didn't go anywhere. And so I'm a little bit reluctant when I look at, again, this is a 60-minute trade strategy system, but I want you to look at the overall trend since about the end of March. Where have we gone in bond futures? I mean, it's almost another type of historic minimal ATR, average true range. We saw it with soybeans. Do you know people that we talked about that tweeted this out? Soybeans had about a 7 to 9 cent. It started to expand a little bit. ATR. Bonds had a narrow kind of trading range environment. And then lastly, you guys know about the euro currency. I've been posting this on the Twitter, YouTube, and with results of our live trading room. And if you haven't joined the live trading room, you got to get on the live trading room. We have a lot of fantastic inspired trades by the algo program that we allow our clients to piggyback, copy, and verify on their own accord. That occurs live in front of them. This is the euro currency, and one of the things that I wanted to point out is that up until last week, the euro had a 48-point average true range on based on a 10-day program. What is that? A 10-day pattern or holding period. It makes it very difficult to make a lot of short-term day trades because the market just does one thing and then nothing for a long time. Now, this is again a 15-minute system, and it's not pitch perfect because the market's not really giving us a lot of great trades. Performance on this, it's for the last week or so. In April, it's done okay, and that's what we kind of look at from about a 2-week maintaining program. We got to change trading systems in accordance to holding periods, etc., based on ATRs. It's part of the whole program of what makes a system work. You got to do what's called maintenance, right? So anyway, what I'm sharing with you, and it is just going through how we utilize the right indicators together, and what are we looking for going ahead next week? Well, first, the euro currency is kind of like scraping a bottom here down around 111.80. Let's round up and say 112, right? In the futures, that's what you see here, 112.44. This is the June futures on the euro currency versus US dollar. The dollar index, to be honest with you, I thought we would see a temporary weakening. And if we get, and I want to post this because we talked about this in the live trading room the other day, if we get a close greater, it's a big move from here, respective of where this whole thing's been. But if we can get a close greater than this 113.09 handle, 113.08, it shows here, but it's like 113.09. You can get a daily close greater than that. I think we got that really strong potential to see a return to the top end of the trading range, which was about maybe before we broke the lows around 115, 116. I'm thinking 115.60 or so. It's going to take a couple things. Keep posted on the YouTube channel. One of the things that I substantiate that claim that we could see a reversal is the fact that this sell-off that's transpired in the last, I don't know, month or so since April comes on the heels of very, very light volume. And in fact, you'll see this is a volume tool. It's a proprietary volume indicator. It's the person volume indicator. And what it signifies is that we have a weakening low. In other words, it's sold off on light volume. So it's a bullish convergence. A lot of traders now use the on-balance volume after I helped popularize this. And a lot of you guys on Thinkorswim, we went on that road tour back in 2009, 10, 11, and we helped actually develop that scan, if you notice, on Thinkorswim for allowing you to see for trades filtered with on-balance volume indicator. Anyway, moving forward, a lot of the euro currency traders are just, I mean, it's dead money, but I'm here to, it's dead money because there's not a lot of active trades. You got to focus your attention, your equity in a market that's got very kind of limited day trade ranges. But here's the thing, it's at a historic low ATR, which tells us eventually we're going to now expand. And with the next, when you hit bottom, there's only one way up, but up, right? So we're expecting to see the ATR pop to the upside pretty soon. And if you get a directional trade indicator or a directional signal, you've got two powerful things behind you. Information knowing that the ranges can expand, which means holding periods, bigger profits on day trades or swing trades, A. B, if you have a directional trend reversal or something that can help identify that, to stick with long trades. So I'm looking for daily closes, and I'll type that out. I'm looking for daily closes greater than both the daily person's pivot indicator and weekly. So what we would look for in this case, and you'll notice briefly that combination, I'm looking for the closes. I'm looking for the closes to get greater than, daily closes greater than the person's pivots. That's what you see right here. This is a filtered pivot point tool. It's available on TradeStation for free, in fact, and we have it also on Thinkorswim and Trade Navigator. Anyway, if the market's truly bullish, you start to see progressions of higher highs in the pivot. This is what I wrote about 15 years ago. A lot of people actually use that information from me and help teach that to others. A lot of guys on, I know, there's some writers on Forbes that use my work and all over. So I would say if a lot of other guys like using it, you should probably at least expand your horizon into watching the relationship of price to the pivots. So here's the deal. If the market's truly bullish, price generally stays above the pivot point. And so what you would want to see when price reverse, the opposite is true. Here's your blue is your pivot and the market went down. Now, when we break and get closes greater than not just 1 day's pivot, maybe 2 days pivot, but what do you think would happen if we get the daily pivots higher than weekly pivots and we get a corresponding higher high in the valuation? Pivots are calculated by the average of high-low close divided by 3, right? So if you have a mathematical formula that's starting to show there's a progression or a transition of change from bearish price action to bullish price action, I want to go with that trend. So we're looking for a key reversal in the market, and as you can see, Bingo. Here's the market. It opened up lower, dollar higher based on the tweets from President Trump. Let's take a look at the market, the overall market. It's a big move down. It's about a 50-point handle lower. Pretty ugly based on the fact that what happened? President Trump tweeted that the deal with China is not going on. So now we're going to find out exactly, is this the big crash to continue, or probably mid-session this might determine a little buying opportunity down the road. That's kind of what I think. Tops take a little bit longer to form than bottoms. A lot of traders will probably like the fact we just saw about a 40-point gap lower in the market based on a couple things between President Trump and North Korea, but that's why we call it Weirdness Week. So in our live trading room tomorrow, guys, it'll be an interesting concept to see where A, we end up, and B, what is the over dynamics of the breadth of the market and the sectors. I would guess that any stock that is tagged to possibly any work with China is going to get just barreled down tomorrow. And anything that's probably maybe domestic might fare a little bit better. Let's see my theory on that one. Here's the futures, the short term, and let's take a look at something together real quick while we're seeing this happen here. Number one, we're almost down 2% in the Russell, 1.6 in the Russell, NASDAQ 1.7%, and the ES 1.5%, down 43. You can see all those moves. So quite frankly, we've got the Russell not behaving worse than the NASDAQ. So, and then again, the blue chips, we got a 400-point down open session on the Dow. So if President Trump doesn't realize what he just tweeted out, maybe if he does, maybe there's something more serious coming out of the fact that China's deal is not going as smoothly as what he said. Now, how am I going to be looking to trade this? Real simple. We don't have a lot of huge exposure over the weekend for anything like this. I wouldn't call this the Black Swan event. How are we trading this market? Quite frankly, we have some positions on in our weekly advisory service with a regional bank, Esperion. BB&T is the regional bank, by the way. Esperion, a small biopharmaceutical company. And more importantly, we're looking at doing something very unique, buying and looking for the energy complex to come down and look for buying. And I wanted to just jump into this real quick because our scans revealed that Hess, while it hasn't done a major sell-off with the rest of the market, it's kind of an interesting concept where Hess actually is relative to the rest of the energy sector strong. So I'm hoping to see a pullback in the market comparing Hess to an XOM. Ooh, that's Exxon's in a longer term downtrend. What you see on your charts here are three things: daily, weekly, monthly time frames. If you want to figure out where a market might go, look at the longer term, higher time frame. That's what I do. Noble Energy, NBL. Looking at Noble Energy, by gosh, that's also in a downtrend. But I'm starting to see a reflection of this little tool. It's called the Person Market Catcher. It's a relative strength tool. It's really cool. It's a proprietary indicator that we created on TradeStation, and yet we did post it under the Person's indicator package on Thinkorswim. So basically what it helps to show us is the market outperformance, underperformance, or lagging or weakening against the overall stock market. So stocks that tend to go down but yet outperform in terms of percentage change, those are they're stronger relative to the overall market. Those are the ones I want to focus in on. So let's take a look at NKE, because moving in consumer retail, Tiger Woods won the Masters, and guess what? Everyone said, oh, you got to get on a Nike. Is Nike maybe a China buster here? If, in other words, maybe Vietnam, where a lot of the sneakers are made, is it overvalued? Is it got exposure to major liquidation? Well, this was one that we wanted to put in the newsletter for a sell recommendation, and here's why. A short-term trade to the downside. We have a low close doji. It's almost what we would consider an Arthur Merrill M11 top pattern. It has divergence on relative strength, momentum loss, and our volume indicator is showing also negative momentum, which means that we more than likely are going to get a swing move back to test 78.80. Now, looking at a few other names, COTY, just going to share you a long position of what may be based on how we open tomorrow. There's something really special about Cody, and this one here looks as if possibly we could see some significant follow through the upside on the weekly basis. The relative strength is outperforming the overall market. The volume trend is up sharply. So what I would be watchful for this stock is that I don't want to see this thing. It'll more than likely hit a target level of up around 13.5. I'm looking for Monday. As long as this, I would have to say, may agree with this. This is an old area of super duper support. It broke out. So 980, somewhere in there. Look for a pullback if the overall market opens super weak, as it is indicating right now on Trump's commentaries. Then that's one that I like only because of that relative strength, longer term blue, and look where this thing's come from. More importantly, look at the volume pattern. If you'll notice here, we have significant down move over time. This is, again, a monthly chart. It bottomed out, just to point this out to you. It seems to have had a nice little bottoming action here. We got one of those PPS momentum persons buy signals. This is one that has a positive volume trend. It shows that there is some accumulation coming. Do we buy that on a breakout, or would you want to buy that on a pullback? I'd love to see a pullback, $8 or so. Let's take a look at a few other ideas for this week in our scans. Looking at buy signals on our weekly scans, here's what we came up with as far as both weekly fresh new buy signals. You got some interesting ones on basic materials and some capital goods, which was kind of interesting. The not a lot. Here's Cody. We just went over it. Why it fell in our scans. Not a lot in energy, but boy, look at the financials. Just a boatload of fresh new weekly buy signals. A lot of these are small cap regional banks. So let's see if they hold their rally this week. Next, I want to look at this biotech. It's really been lagging the market. A. B. We're starting to see a few names like this one, Accorda Therapeutics, pop up with a buy. Now, would I go jump into this stock first thing Monday on a lower open? No. I want to watch to see if we get more stocks in this sector populate buy signals. That shows that there's more interest from the institutional side to accumulate positions and get back into favor with biotech names. This also does not have strong relative strength. Volume's not great. It had maybe a one-day wonder. That's how I read this, but it's a positive, and I'm going to keep my eyes on that through the rest of this week. Next, T-Mobile, Services, Hibbert Sports, none of those really pop out as like super duper like momentum names, right? But it does show that there are buying opportunities in select retail consumer discretionary sector stocks, because not all retail is created equal. So when we say not all retail is created equal, let's take a look at Macy's. That's just an ugly chart, and it's going to probably continue to be ugly. Target, it's almost the opposite, but I would pray for a pullback in Target. It's in a monthly buy. The relative strength is improved or outperforming. So this is Target's one I'm looking for a pullback to add to our portfolio, and we're just not there yet. Now, let me move on, because I think I tweeted this on as far as a domestic kind of consumer discretionary trade. It's Best Buy. I would be welcoming a pullback in Best Buy, and I think we're going to see as we head into early June, any pullback on Best Buy will be, in my humble opinion, one of those like a bear trap. It opens lower if it trades lower, and everyone gets bearish on it. As long as this relative strength longer term is holding up, strong support exists down close to 68 to 65. I don't know if we're even going to see that, but if we do, it may present short-term pickup of a trade that could last, at least into June. Why Best Buy? Because the relative strength is strong, the volume looks trendy, and seasonally it does well. Plus, when do they sell a lot of big screen TVs? You're going to bet for Father's Day, which is also coincides with the NBA Final Championship game. So they actually do pretty well during that time period. So good stuff there for Best Buy. The other one in consumer discretionary we want to look at is Tiffany's. So when you say not a lot of the retail stocks are looking good, there are some retail names in here that have not joined the party. They haven't broken out to test their highs from where they came out from in September, October. Improved relative strength. This one has decent volume. What I don't like is the momentum. I would look at the momentum and I'd say, well, what has the stock done? It's moved sideways. So that would explain the loss of momentum. Tiffany's, if it long as it holds the 98, 95, somewhere down here in our green pivot line of support, that's where I would say is a pretty fine, distinct area for buying a pullback in this stock. Now, what do? They sell jewelry. And when's a good time to give jewelry out? Well, let's see. If a lot of people get married in the early summer, June timeframe, a lot of June weddings, right? So those are engagement rings. They're also people give anniversary gifts out, graduations for kids. So they actually have a little bit of seasonality, and I think it's one that's underplayed as far as it's just not on people's radar screen. So there we have Tiffany's, and just wanted to follow up with that. Next, if you look in the technology sector, man, take your pick. We've got Cenex. Here's one, AZZ, that you guys want to focus in on for this week. This one looks positive, like it could really see some strength and a breakout move as we if, again, the key word, let's take a look at AZZ last. This has been in a major zigzag. So the question begs, a 400-point Dow lower open on President Trump's tweet about China disappointing the market. Where do we go, right? Here's the kind of the range. The longer term, and this is the longer term, suggesting a significant rounding bottom. The relative strength is really strong. So let's say we get 48, 46, 40, I don't know, 46 to 44. Another zig. If it goes up on a zig, let's hope for a zag. And if this is still positive on that zag, I got, my longer term work suggests this thing could explode off the charts. And this looks like a massive, let's take a look. I mean, it has that little flavor of a massive W bottom pattern that could extend this thing right back up to maybe 63, 65. So, I mean, there's some names in here I want to follow that just aren't that bad looking. And then we have what Kohu. Look at this one. So this forms a weekly buy signal last week. The relative strength's not great yet, but we focus on this. It came right into a very strong pattern, old resistance, new support. So let's take a look. Here's the old resistance, and here's now where it fell. So the few minutes ago, I know I said I would be watchful. Here's a pivot, the blue line. I would be watchful to see if the market closes a close greater than the pivot. When markets close below pivot, prices typically are bearish. When prices close above the pivot, the blue line, guess what happens? Magic to the upside. So that's what I'd be waiting for on Kohu. It'd be a daily or a weekly close greater than monthly pivot. That would be a really good sign there, and we'll keep you abreast of that. So again, big news on market reaction to the Trump. We saw that one coming, and there's the reality of the situation. A gap lower open, and it's not a small move, and it just didn't recover. This is a they're jumping out the window type sell-off. It's so far off the charts. Let me bring it into focus. All right, so this is the E-mini S&P, the June contract. This is live. That's right, that's not a mistake. 28.95 is where we stand in the market currently. 28.95. That's a big, almost 2% drop. 52 handles, circuit breakers. I'm sure will go off. This is going to feed on itself. Margin calls, etc., etc. This is our model, by the way, that we run in the live trading room. This is the one that's based on a 15-minute. That does not take trades, as you can see. It takes trades during what? U.S. session. This is the model we use on a Sunday night. I would not let this thing run rampant, and obviously, if you did, you'd be selling here, and your stop would be up there. Performance on this is not too bad for this time period over the last couple weeks. So this trades 2 lots in its results, by the way. You can see where trailing stops, 2 contracts, 2 contracts, 2 contracts, so 2, 2, 2, and scales and trails. Anyway, this is an interesting time. It's a weird week. It's going to be a weird rest of the week. And with that said, I'll keep you updated. I hope you found some of the insights of what we're looking for, the combination of price with persons pivots to detect if that trend is still going to continue. Obviously, we have a downturn in the market. Is this the time to jump out the window, or is this a buying opportunity? I think in certain areas it's still a buying opportunity. That's what I see as it is right now. A sell-off, danger signs. Well, we'll see how it ends by Tuesday's close. Thanks, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, give a thumbs up or a comment as to what you would like to see change. Thanks.